Christmas patrol is usually quiet in upstate New York. Not peaceful, just thin. The kind of quiet that makes the cruiser's engine sound louder than it should. Kevin sits in the passenger seat, boots up on the dash for a second before I tell him to knock it off. He laughs and puts them down. Snow falls straight and steady, no wind, no rush. Houses glow with strings of lights that feel like they're doing their job out of habit. Nothing looks wrong. It just feels like the town is holding its breath and forgot why. We roll through neighborhoods we've driven 100 times. Storefronts are dark, church parking lots are empty, the decorations are still up, wreaths on doors, candles in windows, but there's no movement behind any of it. Kevin keeps talking, mostly nonsense, trying to stay awake. I let him. Christmas shifts don't bring much action, and that's fine with me. The radio crackles now and then with routine traffic. Linda's voice is calm and familiar, the same tone she uses every night. Mileage checks. A stalled vehicle on the highway. Nothing that needs us. Snow keep coming down, soft enough that it doesn't pile, just blurs the edges of everything. We pass a church on the edge of town, lights on, tree visible through the front windows. For a second, I think I hear a bell. Not loud. Just one clear note, like it slipped out by mistake. I check the clock without really thinking about it. It's not the hour. Churches don't ring bells at random. Kevin doesn't react, so I assume I imagined it. The road curves and the building disappears behind us. The radio clicks again. Linda starts to speak, then pauses, like she's checking a screen that didn't load right. She gives a call, routine, calm, but the location isn't clear. No street name, no cross-reference, just a general area we already know. I wait for her to correct it. She doesn't. Kevin looks at me, raises an eyebrow. Probably nothing, he says. I nod and ease the cruiser forward. Glitches happen, weather messes with signals, bells ring for reasons you don't hear. That's how nights like this go. You notice small things, then you let them pass. The snow keeps falling, the lights stay on, and we keep driving. Night patrol settles into your body after a while. You stop thinking about where you're going and just let the streets come to you. The cruiser moves at a steady pace, tires hissing softly against the thin layer of snow that never quite sticks. Houses pass by in slow rows, most of them dark except for the glow of Christmas lights still hanging from gutters and porch rails. The lights feel automatic, like they were turned on weeks ago and forgotten. Nothing about the night feels dangerous. It just feels thinned out, stretched wider than usual. Kevin keeps talking the way he always does when things get quiet. He jumps from one topic to the next without waiting for answers. Food, old calls we barely remember, plans he'll probably cancel. I let him fill the space. It helps keep the shift moving. I respond when I need to, short answers that let him know I'm listening. Christmas doesn't do much for me anymore. I don't tell him that. I just nod, keep my eyes on the road, and watch snowflakes streak past the windshield like faint scratches in the dark. The systems are what keep the night anchored. The radio hums constantly, a low layer of static under everything. Linda's voice comes through clear and familiar, reading out routine updates in the same steady tone she always uses. Mileage checks, location confirmations, nothing urgent. The GPS sits mounted to the dash, the arrow gliding smoothly along roads we know by memory anyway. I trust it without thinking. After enough years, you stop noticing the system when it's working. It becomes part of the vehicle, part of the job. We swing toward the outskirts, where the houses thin out and the roads stretch longer between turns. The snow thickens just enough to blur the edges of the streetlights. The GPS hesitates for a second, the arrow stuttering before snapping back into place. I tap the screen once, more out of habit than concern. Kevin leans forward slightly, squinting at it like it might explain itself. Cold messes with electronics, he says. Yeah, I reply. That's enough. The arrow steadies. The road keeps coming. Linda checks in again a few minutes later. Same calm delivery. Same phrasing as before. I don't notice it right away. It only stands out when she repeats the line, word for word, like she's reading it off the same note twice. I glance at the radio, then back to the road. Kevin doesn't react. He's still talking about a diner that used to stay open all night before the pandemic shut it down for good. Repetition happens. People miss clicks. Systems lag. There's nothing strange about it if you don't push on it. We pass another church, this one set farther back from the road. No lights, no decorations. Just a dark shape against the snow. When Linda mentions a location nearby, the radio crackles harder than usual. The word church cuts out halfway through, swallowed by static before snapping back in. I wait. She repeats herself. The second time comes through clean. I adjust the volume a notch and tell myself the weather's to blame. Snow carries interference. Everyone knows that. Kevin keeps talking, unaware, and I don't interrupt him. The patrol continues in that same quiet rhythm. We roll past empty parking lots and closed storefronts. The few bars that are usually loud on a Friday night sit dark and silent. Even the gas stations feel half asleep. It's like the town decided to keep the decorations up but send everyone home early. I find myself paying attention to which houses still have lights on and which ones don't. Some windows glow warmly, others are black and hollow. The contrast doesn't bother me. It's just something to notice while the minutes pass. Another routine call comes in, Linda's voice again, same tone, same phrasing. I acknowledge it automatically, my thumb pressing the button without looking. The response feels mechanical, like muscle memory taking over. The GPS updates our position with a soft chime. Everything lines up the way it should. If there are glitches, they're small enough to blend into the night without leaving any real impression. I don't feel uneasy. I don't feel watched. I just feel tired, the way you do when a shift drags on without giving you a reason to stay sharp. By the time we loop back toward town, the earlier details have already faded. The repeated phrasing, the dropped word, the brief hesitation on the GPS. They sit in the back of my mind, filed away with a dozen other small things you notice and forget on nights like this. Christmas lights still glow. Snow keeps falling. Kevin finally quiets down, staring out his window as the cruiser hums along. The systems keep running. The night stays calm. And I let myself believe that nothing about this shift will be any different from the rest. The call doesn't sound urgent. That's what makes it feel legitimate. Linda's voice stays level, professional, almost detached as she relays the information. A reported disturbance, possible violence, location listed as a church outside town, no street name, no cross street, just a general direction that covers more ground than I'd like. I acknowledge the call and slow the cruiser slightly, my eyes moving to the GPS without thinking. Kevin shifts in his seat, posture changing the way it does when a quiet night finally offers something to respond to. The map takes longer than usual to load. The screen dims, then brightens, zooming out before snapping back in closer. It settles on a rough area we've already passed earlier in the shift. Kevin leans forward, squinting at it. That one again? Looks like it, I say. Neither of us sounds concerned. Messy calls happen all the time, especially on holidays. People panic. They forget addresses. They describe places by feeling instead of location. Dispatch works with what they get. Linda comes back on the line to clarify, but the clarification doesn't narrow anything down. Same area, same direction. She repeats herself slowly, like pacing might help the system catch up. I wait for a landmark, a name, Anything specific, nothing comes. Kevin shrugs and settles back. Probably some drunk argument, he says. Probably, I reply. Christmas does that to people. Alcohol, stress, empty buildings that look occupied from the outside. As we head toward the outskirts, I pull up the traffic cameras for the nearby roads. The feeds load one by one, intersections dusted with snow. No headlights, no brake lights, no parked cars along the shoulders. I refresh them, checking timestamps. Everything's live, everything's empty. I tell myself churches don't sit on busy roads. People don't always drive in weather like this. Cameras miss things. They always do. Still, I keep the screens up longer than I need to, watching snow drift through the frame like static. Linda checks in again, asking for our status. I tell her we're en route. She acknowledges it without comment. No backup assigned, no escalation. That alone tells me she doesn't think this is serious, or that there's no one else close enough to help even if it is. Either way, it reinforces the idea that this is routine. The radio hisses softly between transmissions, thick enough to notice, not thick enough to worry about. Kevin drums his fingers against his knee, eyes fixed on the road ahead. The snow reflects our headlights in a way that flattens distance, making everything beyond the beam feel farther away than it should. A few minutes pass. Then Linda adds another detail. Not a correction, just an extra line, slipped in like an afterthought. Someone might still be inside. Her phrasing shifts slightly, careful now, like she's relaying someone else's words instead of her own. They said people were inside, she tells us. There's a pause, long enough to notice. Just standing. Kevin lets out a short laugh, sharp and quick. Standing around during a fight? I don't respond right away. The wording sticks with me more than it should. It's not dramatic, not emotional, just oddly specific. I repeat it once in my head, then push it aside. People describe things badly under stress. Fear strips details down to whatever feels most obvious. If someone walked past a lit building and saw shapes through frosted glass, standing might be the only word that comes to mind. The GPS directs us onto a narrower road. Trees crowd closer to the shoulder, branches sagging under the weight of fresh snow. The signal drops for a split second. The arrow freezes, then jumps ahead, correcting itself. Kevin notices this time. You ever notice it only does that out here? He says. Less towers, I reply. It's the easiest answer, and it's true enough to hold. Rural coverage has always been spotty. Everyone knows that. The map steadies, the road stretches on, and we keep moving. The night stays quiet in that particular way that makes even engine noise feel intrusive. Another check-in from Linda, same phrasing as before, same cadence. I don't notice it immediately. It only registers when she uses the exact same sentence again, word for word, like she's reading it off a static screen that didn't refresh. I glance at the radio, then back to the road. Kevin doesn't react. He's talking about a diner that used to stay open all night before the pandemic shut it down for good. Repetition happens. People double-click, systems lag. There's nothing strange about it unless you decide there is. We pass a dark church set back from the road, barely visible between the trees. No lights, no decorations, just a heavy shape against the snow. When Linda mentions the word church again, the radio crackles hard enough to distort the syllable. The sound cuts out halfway through, then snaps back in. I wait. She repeats herself. The second time comes through clean. I adjust the volume one notch. Signal's rough tonight, I say. Kevin nods, accepting it without question. Snow carries interference. Moisture messes with electronics. That's common knowledge. If you work long enough in places like this, you learn not to read too much into bad reception. The farther out we go, the more the small inconsistencies start lining up in my head without fully connecting. The vague address, the empty cameras, the repeated phrasing, the interference every time the same word comes up. Each one has an explanation on its own. Together, they still do, as long as I don't push too hard. I don't. I focus on the road, on the speedometer, on the way the snow thickens as the street lights thin out. The call is still active. That's what matters. Linda comes back on again, confirming we're the closest unit. I tell her we are. Her response mirrors the last one exactly. Kevin stretches his shoulders, preparing himself for paperwork more than anything else. This doesn't feel like a serious call. It feels like a misunderstanding that will resolve itself once we get eyes on the place. Another message comes through, clearly relayed from someone else. A witness, maybe. Linda's voice shifts just enough that I can tell she's reading. He said the lights were on, she tells us. She pauses, and there were people inside. Another pause, then the same phrase again, unchanged. Just standing. Kevin stops drumming his fingers. He glances at me, then back out the windshield. That's a weird way to put it, he says. People say weird things, I reply. I believe that when I say it. I have to. The road curves, and through the trees I see light ahead, not flashing, not moving. Just steady illumination, warm against the snow. It matches the direction Linda gave us, vague as it was. The GPS confirms we're close, though the icon jitters slightly as if unsure which path to commit to. Kevin sits up straighter, adjusting his jacket. Well, he says, guess we'll see. I slow the cruiser, scanning the area. No other vehicles, no tire tracks, no fresh footprints near the road. The lights ahead don't flicker or dim. They stay constant, like they have been on for a while. That detail settles me more than anything else. If someone took the time to decorate and keep the lights running, then this place isn't as abandoned as the camera suggested. The radio stays silent for nearly a full minute, longer than it has all night. I almost miss the sound of static under Linda's voice. When she finally checks in again, it's only to confirm our location. Her phrasing matches the last time she asked. I answer the same way. The exchange feels clean, professional, unremarkable. Whatever pattern I thought I was seeing dissolves under the weight of procedure. By the time we turn onto the approach, I'm convinced this is exactly what it looks like. A messy call, poor directions, a witness who didn't know how to describe what they saw. The earlier glitches fade into the background, filed away with every other minor issue that never turns into anything. The lights ahead remain steady. The road ends, and we pull in, expecting nothing more than another quiet Christmas interruption that we'll forget by morning. The cruiser rolls to a stop at the edge of the lot. Snow crunches under the tires, loud and brittle, like the sound doesn't want to settle. The engine idles for a second longer than necessary before I shut it off. In the sudden quiet, the church stands alone a short distance from the road, fully lit, every window glowing warm against the black line of trees behind it. A wreath hangs on the front doors, candles flicker inside. Through the glass, I can see a Christmas tree near the altar, lights steady, ornaments catching reflections that shift when we move. Nothing looks abandoned, nothing looks damaged. It looks prepared, like someone expected people to arrive and didn't want the place to feel empty when they did. We step out into the cold together. The air feels heavier here, dense in a way that makes breathing feel deliberate. Snow falls straight down, no wind, no drift. Kevin pulls his hat lower and scans the lot. Anyone else here? No, I say. No cars, no headlights, no footprints leading up to the doors. The snow near the entrance is smooth, untouched. That detail sticks longer than it should. If people were here recently, there should be something. A track, a scuff, anything at all. I tell myself the snow could have filled it in after they left. It's been coming down steadily all night. The doors open easily when I push them. Warm air meets us immediately. Not just heat, but the trapped warmth of a space that's been lit and waiting. The decorations are fresh, new bows, real wreaths, candles that haven't burned down yet. The place smells faintly of pine and wax. Every pew is empty. No coats draped over the backs, no purses, no hymn books left open, no signs of a rush or a fight. Kevin takes a few steps down the aisle. "Hello?" His voice doesn't echo. It just stops. I wait for the sound to come back. It doesn't. The silence isn't loud. It's dense, like the room absorbs noise instead of carrying it. We move slowly, checking the side rooms and doors along the walls. A small office, a storage closet, everything neat, everything unused, too neat. I feel the urge to fill the space with explanation before it fills itself. "Probably a false call," I say. "Someone saw the lights on." Kevin nods, but his eyes keep moving. Mine do too. The building doesn't feel old. It feels paused. A scraping sound breaks the silence behind us. Not loud, just enough to register. A folding chair near the side wall slides a few inches across the floor, metal legs dragging softly. It stops on its own. Kevin turns first, his hand drifting toward his belt. "Did you?" "I didn't touch it." We stand there, watching the chair, waiting for it to move again. It doesn't. The floor is level, no slope, no vibration. I crouch and check the legs, give it a small shake. Solid. "Old building," I say. "Stuff shifts." Kevin nods, but he doesn't relax. We take another step. A table near the front snaps sideways and slams into the floor. Not slowly, not tipping. Sudden, violent. Candles scatter and roll, clinking softly as they spin. One flame goes out, the others stay lit. Kevin swears. That didn't just... I know. The silence after the crash presses in harder than before. Somewhere above us, something creaks, not the groan of settling beams, something tighter, focused. The doors slam shut, not together, one, then the other. The sound rebounds off the walls, making it hard to tell where it came from. I spin and grab the handle. It doesn't move. "Michael, I'm here." A thin crack splits the ceiling. Dust drifts down. Another crack branches outward, then another. The lights flicker, but stay on. The air feels compressed now, flattened. Sound doesn't behave right. Kevin's boots barely register when he steps back. The floor gives way without warning. A sharp crack, a rush of air. Kevin drops straight down as the boards collapse beneath him. I lunge forward, catching the edge just in time. Splinters bite into my hands. Cold air rushes up from below. "Kevin!" No answer. The radio hisses, then dies completely. Static drains away, leaving nothing. I shout his name again. My voice feels stretched, pulled downward instead of outward. Seconds pass. Too many. "I'm here," Kevin says from below. "I'm okay, I think." Relief hits hard, followed immediately by panic when I realize how far down he is. I'm coming down. "Wait, just hold on." I scan the room, heart pounding. A narrow stairwell near the back, half hidden behind a storage door. I move fast, every step feeling heavier, like the floor might decide to give up again. The lights dim slightly as I descend. Not enough to go dark, just enough to feel intentional. The basement is colder. Stone walls, low ceiling, pipes overhead, some dripping, some dry. Kevin sits on the floor, breathing hard, eyes wide. He looks past me. "You hear that?" "Hear what?" He shakes his head. "That's the problem." The silence is complete. Even the dripping is stopped. Footsteps sound above us, slow, measured, more than one set. We climb back up together. Each step feels wrong, like we're climbing into something instead of out of it. When we reach the main floor, the space feels changed, not rearranged, occupied. The room looks the same. Decorations untouched, candles still burning. But my body knows before my eyes do. The air is different, thicker, expectant. I feel my thoughts slip. Analysis breaks down. There's no room for it anymore. Then I see them. They stand behind the pews in loose rows, more than a dozen, men and women, different heights, different builds, all facing forward, all perfectly still. Their faces blur when I try to focus on them, features smoothed by shadow and light, mouths hang open slightly. Eyes don't catch reflections the way they should. No one moves, no one speaks. My brain gives up on understanding and switches to instruction. Run. I grab Kevin's arm and pull him toward the doors. He doesn't resist. We slip on the smooth floor, breath loud in our ears. The doors open easily this time, like they want us gone. Cold air slams into us. We sprint for the cruiser. I yank the handle. Locked. Kevin tries the other side. Locked. A voice speaks behind us, close, calm. You forgot your Christmas present. I turn before I can stop myself. They're closer now, still unmoving, still watching. The radio crackles to life. Michael, Linda says, where are you? We lost you for a minute. The sound hits like a shock. Kevin gasps. In that instant, the lot is empty. The figures are gone. The church stands quiet behind us, light steady. The locks click. We're inside the cruiser and moving before the doors finish closing. Tires spin, then grip. The church shrinks in the mirrors, unchanged. Neither of us speaks. We don't slow down until the lights disappear completely. Kevin doesn't leave the hospital the next day, or the day after that. By the time my shift ends, he's already been admitted, sedated, and placed under observation. They don't call it a breakdown at first. They use softer words: acute stress, shock, temporary psychotic episode. I hear all of them in passing, like they're being read off a list meant to keep things orderly. None of the terms matter. What matters is that Kevin doesn't recognize me when I stand at the foot of his bed. His eyes move when I speak, but they don't settle. His hands keep clenching and unclenching, like he's trying to hold on to something that isn't there anymore. A nurse asks me to step back when he starts muttering under his breath. I don't catch most of it, just fragments, repetition, the same few words over and over, like they're stuck on a loop. I leave before visiting hours end. There's nothing I can do for him there. Whatever followed us out of that church didn't come quietly. It took something with it, something Kevin doesn't know how to put down. I don't get much time to sit with that thought. By the end of the day, I'm called in to speak with Harris. No urgency in the request, no hint of accusation. Just a message passed along the chain like any other. When I step into his office, he doesn't ask me to sit right away. He finishes reading something on his screen first, scrolling slowly, deliberately, like he wants to be sure of what he's seeing. Long night? He asks. Yeah, I say. He gestures to the chair. I sit. The room smells like burnt coffee and paper. Harris folds his hands together on the desk, posture calm, practiced. He doesn't look angry. That's what unsettles me. We had some questions about your patrol, he says. Okay. He studies my face for a moment, then looks back at the screen. You and Kevin went off grid for a bit, he continues. Lost contact. Yes, sir. Dispatch didn't have you assigned anywhere near that area. I feel my shoulders tense. We were responding to a call, I say. Harris nods, like he's expecting that answer. That's what you said in your report. He taps a key, brings something up. There was no dispatch order issued, he says. No call logged, no record of any disturbance. I shake my head. That's not possible. He looks up at me again. No such call existed, he says, slower this time. The words sit between us, heavy. I open my mouth to argue, then stop. I think about Linda's voice, the phrasing, the repetition. I think about the radio cutting out, about it coming back on at exactly the wrong moment. I heard it, I say. We both did. Harris doesn't argue. He just watches me. We reviewed the logs, he says. Dispatch didn't send you anywhere. He slides a printed report across the desk. I don't need to read it to know what it says. What about the location? I ask. He exhales through his nose, then leans back slightly. The church you mentioned, he says. We sent someone out there this morning. I wait. It's been abandoned for years, he continues. Structures barely sound, roofs caving in, no power, no decorations, no sign of recent use. That's not... I stop myself. The words feel weak even before I say them. It was lit. Harris's expression doesn't change. There's no electrical service running to that building, he says. Hasn't been for a long time. The room feels smaller, not physically, just closer. I can take you out there if you want, he adds. See it yourself? I nod, even though part of me already knows I don't want to. We go later that afternoon. The snow has stopped by then, leaving the world gray and flat. The church sits where it always has, but it doesn't look like the place we entered. The windows are dark, boards cover the doors, the roof sags inward, beams exposed like broken ribs. No wreath, no candles, no tree. The lot is uneven, weeds pushing through cracked pavement. Harris lets me walk ahead. I stop near the entrance, staring at the boards, trying to line them up with the memory of glass and light. They don't match. Nothing does. This is it, he says behind me. I don't respond. There was no way anyone could have been inside, he adds. Not safely. I step back from the building, cold settling in my chest. Harris watches me carefully, waiting for something, an outburst, a denial. I don't give him either. Back at the station, the questions stop. Harris doesn't push. He doesn't need to. The implication hangs there on its own. Whatever happened, it didn't fit inside the system, and the system doesn't bend to accommodate things it can't log. Matthew's the only reason I don't let myself believe I imagined everything. They bring him in quietly, not as a suspect, just a witness. He sits across from me in a small room, hands folded, posture rigid. He looks tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. When he speaks, it's careful, like he's choosing each word to avoid something. I saw the lights, he says. When? I ask. That night, he replies. Late. Anyone else there? He shakes his head. No. I wait. He stares at the table. The church was ready, he continues, decorated, warm, like people were supposed to show up. But they didn't, I say. No, he answers. No one ever does. That's when it starts to settle. Not as a realization, as a weight. Matthew doesn't describe people. He doesn't mention faces. He doesn't talk about movement, just preparation, just absence, just waiting. After he leaves, I sit alone for a long time. The pieces don't fit cleanly, but they start to align, not into an explanation, into a rule. The places aren't random. They aren't chosen for who goes there. They're chosen for what's been set up and left behind. Lights turned on, decorations hung, doors unlocked, spaces prepared for gatherings that never come. Christmas is supposed to be shared. That's the point of it. When it isn't, when it's staged and abandoned, something steps in to fill the gap. The present wasn't a gift. It was a substitution. Whatever we interrupted that night wasn't meant for us. We walked in while something was still waiting. Before the exchange could finish, the radio coming back on didn't save us. It paused things, deferred them. Kevin paid for that pause, Matthew too, in his own way. And whatever was left unfinished didn't disappear. It just lost its place. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know how long it waits. I only know this. It doesn't arrive where Christmas happens. It arrives where Christmas is prepared and forgotten. Kevin doesn't recover, not in the way people mean when they ask. He's released eventually, transferred, evaluated again, and then moved somewhere that doesn't show up on my schedule. When I ask, I get careful answers. Ongoing care, privacy, best interests. His name stops coming up on shift briefings. The space he used to fill does the same thing the church did. Looks normal until you notice no one stands there anymore. Matthew disappears from the records a few weeks later. Not flagged, not erased dramatically, just absent. I look him up once, out of habit, and find nothing where his name should be. No follow-ups, no witness notes. Like he was never asked to sit across from me and describe a building that waited. I don't push. I've learned what pushing does to things that don't want to be found. No one mentions the church again, not Harris, not dispatch, not anyone on patrol. The address never comes up. The word never stutters on the radio. The system runs clean, smooth, efficient. Whatever gap existed gets sealed without ceremony. Christmas lights come down, snow melts. The town resets itself the way it always does. If something is missing, it's small enough to step around. I go back to patrol. Different partner, same routes, same quiet stretches where the engine hums and the heater clicks. Nights thin out the same way they always have. I keep my hands steady on the wheel and my eyes on the road. I don't slow near the outskirts. I don't look for the turn. I don't need to. The radio turns on by itself just after midnight. No static spike, no buildup. It's simply there, like it never shut off. I don't reach for it. I don't speak. My name comes through clear, spoken once without emphasis. Michael. No greeting follows, no call sign, no request. Your Christmas present is still waiting. The transmission ends. The radio goes quiet again. I pull over and sit there longer than I should, watching my breath fog the windshield. Nothing else happens. No lights, no movement. The night stays intact. I understand then that I don't need to go back to the church. I never did. Whatever was interrupted doesn't stay tied to a place once it's been acknowledged. Next time, it won't be cut short. Next time, there won't be a radio coming back on at the wrong moment. As I pull back onto the road, a bell rings somewhere far away. Just one note. Too distant to place, too clean to be an accident. I keep driving until the sound fades, letting the night close in around it.